So did you get the point?
Well, yeah, you're all seasick.
Yeah. More than seasick, we survived that. All right, say January 19,
January 19th,
2020.
2020.
So the last 3 Sundays, or the first 3 Sundays of 2020, I've mentioned the number of the day and the Hebrew meaning of the number, and the reason is to show us how intricately involved God is in our lives, even down to numbers and letters of the alphabet, like 5780. 80 is the letter Pei, and it's linked with, Deanne, the mystical and the supernatural dynamic. Like that chair you're sitting in. Let's just go quantum. That chair you're sitting in, that you didn't think one thing about that chair not holding you up. Did anybody check out that chair before you sat down in it? No, you did not. But the chair you're sitting in is mystical and it's supernatural. And here's why I say that. Because in the natural, it appears to be solid. It appears to be strong enough to hold you. But if your eyes, say my eyes are going to be open. But if your eyes were open to the mystical, if your eyes were open to the supernatural atmosphere, you would see that that solid material called a chair that you're counting on it holding you up is nothing but spinning atoms all in motion and lots of movement because it's a physics principle. So that word mystical. The word mystical is not New Age. Mystical comes from the Bible. I checked it out this weekend. It's in there about 45 times, mystical, mysterion, mystery, and it's linked to Pei, which is 80. So we're right in the middle of a mystical, supernatural time frame of God. So we want our eyes opened to that realm, to that mystical atmosphere. Because why? Because that's what the Bible is all about. Really, you cannot figure the Bible out in your natural mind, all of those stories, all of those scriptures. We've entered a decade and a new era where mysteries are being uncovered. Hey! And here's how they're uncovered in 5780. 80 is the year of the decade or the year of the voice. So these mysteries are uncovered by speaking our way into it. It's too quiet in this room. All of that is seen, heard, and experienced by the mystery of faith. Faith is a mystery. This is what is said, you'll love this, Deanne, about the Apostle Paul. Paul was appointed by God to bring to light what is the administration of the mystery which for ages have been hidden in God who created all things. It's a mystery. And Paul was appointed by God to bring to light what is the administration of that mystery. So let's just talk about this mystery. So we started on January 5th. That was the first Sunday that we had in 2020. And we discussed that the number 5 is the number of grace, kindness, and favor. Grace, kindness, and favor. Then last week, which was the Sunday that Deanne was making reference to, she didn't know whether I could beat it or not. I can beat it. I want to tell you something. I can beat it. We're always moving up. We're always cycling up. So January the 12th was 12, and it meant authority to move into a destined position. And so the video, of course, that I used was the dancing enforcer of the police officer that didn't have the power to stop a car, but he had the authority to tell a car and to direct traffic, because 12, remember, is the authority to move yourself into a destined position or to direct somebody into a destined position. Say 19. Now, the last time you looked at your calendar, you found out that today is January the 19th. Check it out. 19 has a frequency of unshakable faith and unsinkable faith. Unsinkable, unshakable faith. Shout 19. So this month is January, or it's Tevet, and it's the first month of any year is packed, check it out, with above average awesomeness. Say that with me. Above average awesomeness. That's A to the third power. So January is the first month on our Gregorian calendar, and the frequency of number 1 is success. Hey! And Tevet is the Hebrew month that we're in, and it is the 10th month in the Hebrew calendar. And check out 10. 10 means lacking nothing, confidence, energy, creative power. And I like this one, Cheryl. You'll love it. Step out of the old circumstances into ones that are suited better for your success. There's just some decisions and lack of boundaries that have kept us in circumstances that do not suit our gifting and our success. And also 10 means this: at your choice and your words, the dark cloud goes away. Hey! So let's just continue to review over these last couple of weeks. What does 20 mean? 20 is movement from potential to actual. And my unshakable, unsinkable faith is what activates my potential in the unseen realm to be actual in the seen realm. So here's what we say. Say this after me. I'm not moved by circumstances. My faith is what I stand on. My faith is evidence of what I hope for. Shout 19. Unshakable faith. Unsinkable faith. Tell your neighbor, my boat will float. So I'm doing what Deanne told us to do. And I'm reading Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John out loud. I make it to Luke chapter 8. Listen to it. Now it came to pass on a certain day that Jesus went into a boat with his disciples. And he said to them, let us go over to the other side. Now listen, if you have ears to hear what the Spirit of God is saying, Jesus got on that boat and he told them exactly what they were going to do. That would be like holding up that Bible that Deanne just said. And here is exactly what we're going to do. This is how we're going to live. This is how we're going to step out of circumstances that we got ourselves in and get into ones that are better suited to our success. Let us go over to the other side of the lake. And because they were believing Jesus, they launched forth. But as they sailed, Jesus went to the bottom of the boat and he fell asleep. And there came a great storm of wind on the lake, and the boat filled with water. You notice that? The boat filled with water, and they were in trouble. And they came to Jesus, and they awoke him, saying, that would not be awake, O sleeper. And they awoke him by saying the exact opposite of what Jesus had said. Master, we perish. Then Jesus arose and rebuked the wind and the raging sea, and it ceased, and there was a calm. And Jesus said the most interesting thing. Now, he gets up. He's sleeping. I mean, he is a man and he's God. I don't know. That's a mystery. That is a mystery. But he is, and so he's got to sleep. He's down there. He is sleeping away. They wake him up because now all of a sudden they're moved by those circumstances that are not suited to their success, and they don't know what to do about it. They all of a sudden they forgot what Jesus said. Master, Master, we perish. So he gets up and he says to them, where is your faith? Look at your neighbor and say, where's yours? Yeah. Where is your faith? So we have Jesus here. He's standing in the middle of the boat and he's changing the weather. Now, apparently, because as soon as they got on the boat, Jesus said, hey, let's go to the other side. And without even thinking, without discussing, without checking their weather apps, without looking at the news, they launch forth. They apparently had faith to get on the boat. But somewhere along the way, they lost it. Do I have a witness?
Well,
where is your faith? Jesus is saying, you do have faith somewhere. Where is your faith? Let me just say this. During a storm, we know this, Cheryl. We know this, Jody. During a storm, sometimes our faith needs to be located. Yeah, sometimes we do. It needs to be located. But here's the great deal. It wasn't a question of if they had faith. Sometimes in a storm, you can kind of lose track of it. They didn't need more faith. And here's the deal. Sometimes in our journey, whether we're praying for healing or finances or people or government or whatever it is, we can say this to ourselves, well, if I just had more faith. If I just have more faith. That isn't what Jesus said. He didn't say you need more faith. He said, where is your faith? So apparently they needed to just find the faith that they had already. And then there's another story that you read a little bit later, and it's about Peter, and he's on the boat, and he thinks he sees Jesus, and he says, you know, Master, if that's you, bid me to come. And so he steps out. You remember this story. He steps out, and Jesus says, come, and he steps out of the boat, and here come the wind, here come the waves, and he begins to say, you know what Jesus said there? He didn't say, where is your faith? He said, oh, you of little faith. Now I'm going to say this right here. When the storm gets big, don't let your faith get little.
that's good.
Now that's postable right there.
Yes, say that again.
When the storm gets big, that's what happened to Peter. Everything was fine. It was Jesus, and he's going to go out there, and he's going to walk out there where Jesus is, and then all of a sudden the wind and the storm comes, it says, and he begins to sink. So when the storm gets big, let's just remember that. When the storm gets big, don't let your faith get little.
Sandy, I was sitting there asking myself, what is the key ingredient in the storm that challenges our faith?
Yeah.
We get uncomfortable.
I'm sure they were on that boat. Yes.
They get uncomfortable. Something upsets your level of comfort, whether it's physical or emotional or how you're feeling. But we don't like to be uncomfortable. And when we get really uncomfortable, the faith goes out the window. If you live in trauma, if you live in lack, if you live in pain, if you live in craziness, if you live in emotional trauma.
Yeah.
Those things make us uncomfortable.
Yes.
They disturb the quantum biofield around us.
Yeah.
And we begin to search for a way to get comfortable. Mm-hmm. And if we would just take a step back and realize that this is the sign, stop it.
Uh-huh.
And return. The book of remembrance is so that we'll remember what he said.
Hey. Yes. Jesus didn't say to Peter, you need more faith. Tell your neighbor, thank God. I mean, more faith, more faith, more faith. He was saying you just needed to have kept on doing what you were doing, irregardless
of your discomfort,
of the wind and the waves. So, okay, let's go back to our original story. So now it came to pass on a certain day, say certain. It came to pass on a certain day that they launched forth. Certain means reliable or dependable. Launched forth means they left the safety of the shore. They launched forth. Now, Deanne and I got many stories on this, but have you ever gotten a boat with somebody that you thought was reliable and dependable? You know what I'm talking about, Cinda. And you launched forth into a circumstance with them that you thought was reliable and dependable, and immediately the storm came. And you were certain it would never happen. Okay, let's go on. But as they sailed, Jesus fell asleep. Jesus got in, he went below, he fell asleep, then the storm came. Oh no! Jesus is asleep. Now let me just say this. As long as Jesus was in view, all was well. As long as they could see Jesus moving, as long as they could hear him speaking, as long as Jesus was doing miracles, they knew they were safe. As long as he was visible, as long as he was doing stuff, they were great men of faith and power. But he fell asleep in the bottom of the boat. Where's your faith? So we found our faith. This is why I played this song, Deanne. We have seeing is believing faith. If I could just see some stuff, then I would believe. No. I believe. Remember the song? So we located our faith. I got to see something, faith. Show me faith. So we're on the hunt for our faith. Where is our faith? And there came down a storm on the lake up to that time. And I think that this is true for that the Sea of Galilee, that all of a sudden a storm can come. And it says that there came down a storm on the lake. Up till that time it was peaceful. Everything was great. There wasn't a worry. I prefer that myself. But that peaceful lake turned stormy, so we found our faith. Once again, before that, when Jesus was doing miracles, they were full of faith. When they were seeing him, they were full of faith. Now, when the peaceful situation turned stormy, all of a sudden they found their faith. They got fair weather faith. I got faith when everything is fair weather. I got faith when my lake is peaceful. And then here's what they said: Master, we perish. Is that what Jesus said? No. Did he say, let's get in that boat and drown? No, he didn't. No, he said, let's go over to the other side. Now, I know that this seems rather simple, but just apply it. Let's have some application here. He said, let's go over to the other side. So really, we found our faith. It's like, if I can see him working, then I'm full of faith. If everything is fine and I'm comfortable and fair weather and peaceful lake, everything is good. Now, let me tell you how faith can be lost. Faith can be lost through what you say. Jesus said we're going over to the other side. Faith does not say we're perishing. Faith does not say we won't make it. Faith doesn't say I'm not going to be healed. Faith doesn't say I don't know what to do. Faith doesn't say I am quitting. Faith says what God says. So it's time to stop talking negative. It's time to stop talking decrease. It's time to stop talking loss. It's time to stop talking fear. We found our faith. All of a sudden we know we got feeling faith. As long as I'm feeling good, I've got faith. And then let me tell you something. Whatever you're feeling, most likely you're going to say. Listen, I know this. I'm not talking about everything just being great all the time. Sometimes storms come and they come by surprise. They just come by surprise. But listen, we got to get the word. Let's just get the word in us before any kind of surprise would come. We do live in this world. We're not supposed to be of this world, but we live in this world. And from time to time, there are a few surprises. That's why we need to be in a community of faith. And be in a community where you hear the present truth of God. Whether it comes as a video from an encounter or however it comes, get in a community of faith. Because if we do, and here's how you know when you're a community of faith. If you do, you won't be saying, I'm going under. You won't be saying, I'm not going to make it. You'll be saying, I'm going through. You won't speak death. You'll speak life. Here's the goodness of God. Shout 19. 19. Here's unshakable faith. Here's unsinkable faith. We're going over to the other side. However that applies to the situations that we're in right now, we're going to the other side. We're going to the other side. Might be a storm. There might be a storm. I'm going to the other side. People might not get it, Deanne. I'm going to the other side. We might be misunderstood. I'm going. I might get sick. I'm going. I'm going to the other side. Now, cancel clear. So, check it out. Jesus took them on a boat ride. Yes, he did. So they could clearly see where they really were in faith. Because Jesus made an incredible statement in Luke a little bit before. He said, I am going to come back. I'm going to leave. I'm going to come back. And there's one thing that I'm looking for, Deanne. I'm looking for faith. Yeah, he said, I'm looking for faith. It's the thing that pleases God. We can't get around it. Listen, pretty much I'm a faith preacher. Somehow, some way, it's going to be that. And on today, it's going to be unshakable faith, unsinkable faith. And here's the deal. Jesus wants us to think right. He wanted them to think right. Because and that was when he was sleeping. He wanted them to think right. He knew the storm. I love serving a God that knows all things. He's omnipresent, so he's everywhere. He's inside. Yes, he is. He's everywhere. Yes, he is. He's all-knowing. Yes, he is. So Jesus knew. That's why he said that. Just read your Bible. This is why he said it. We're going to the other side because he knew when he was asleep there was going to be a storm. So they would be able to think right when he's sleeping. Because Jesus knew this. He knew that there was a time coming that not only would he not be in their boat, he wouldn't even be on the planet. Where's your faith? Say this with me. I've got going to the other side faith. I've got wind-calming faith. I've got water-rebuking faith. I've got unshakable, unsinkable faith. Let me tell you about this opportunity. These are opportunities that we're going to be presented in the days and the months ahead. Deanne's already talked about it. In the days and the months ahead, we're going to be presented with opportunities that are brilliantly disguised as impossible. You can post that. That opportunity was brilliantly disguised as impossible. Nothing is impossible. I'm telling you. God's getting us ready for something. Because there are going to be some brilliantly disguised circumstances, opportunities that are going to come our way that's going to look impossible. But nothing is impossible with God. Let the weak say, I am strong. Let the poor say, I am rich. He bore my sicknesses. He bore my shame. He bore my sorrow. These circumstances are brilliantly disguised as something that's impossible, but it's not. So, of all things, Deanne, I don't even know this. I don't even watch. I certainly don't watch musicals or anything like that. But I was thinking about Unsinkable, and so to get a little bit higher perspective, I just looked up the unsinkable Molly Brown. Have you ever heard of the unsinkable Molly Brown? Now, I don't know anything about it, but I just heard that, the unsinkable, since we're talking about unsinkable faith and unshakable faith. And so I thought, well, who's Molly Brown? I didn't know. But she was a famous Titanic survivor. I'm telling you, I didn't even know this. A famous Titanic survivor. And she was like upper class. So she was in a good place. And then it became obvious that there was an opportunity that was brilliantly disguised as impossible. And so what she does is she comes out of her first class accommodations in this ship, and she begins to help with the lifeboats, because it was apparent this thing's going down. So they've got all these lifeboats out. She's out there in her fine clothes, and she is helping people and children get on these lifeboats. And then, so finally somebody said, okay, you need to get on a lifeboat. And she said, okay, but you give me that oar, and I'm going to decide when we're going to turn back, and we're going to go help these people be safe. And if these crewmen that I'm on this lifeboat with don't want to turn back, I'm going to push you overboard. Unsinkable Molly Brown. I'll tell you, in this day that we're in right now, you got to have a backbone, and you got to have heard from God, and you got to say, I've got unshakable faith. I've got unsinkable faith. I may have to watch that musical. And so she said, you're going overboard if you don't go back there and help everybody. And so what happened is her efforts to save as many people as she could gave her a place in history, and the experience of a famous survivor of the Titanic helped her to promote her issues that she felt strongly about. And I'm telling you, God is speaking this morning. And so because of this circumstance that she found herself in, and she's got unshakable, unsinkable faith for those that she could save. It gave her a voice for these issues that meant something to her, like women's issues, workers' issues. That there was war-torn areas. She was all about that. She was all about the veterans. She was all about better education. And that gave that titanic, horrible experience, gave her a voice. Unsinkable Molly Brown. So lift your hands. I want that. I want that. I want that. I want that in our life. I know we all go through stuff. I know all that. I want to turn it around. I want us to be unshakable. I want us to be unsinkable in this season of time that we're in. So God, I speak that over the faith of every person in this room, and that is hearing me speak right now. I say you are unsinkable. I say you are unshakable. I say you are going to the other side. I say you are in position for your destiny. I say you are walking in grace, you are walking in kindness, and you are walking in favor. I say the best is yet to come in the name of Jesus.